How's it going, everyone? Rosalind here. So I wanted to give more tips and just some more general useful information about Metaphor that I wasn't able to get into my previous video. This is going to be a little bit unscripted of a video. I have some notes I've taken, but I haven't actually written a script out like I usually do, so bear with me on that. I just wanted to get this information out as quickly as possible. But to start, I want to talk about bonds. Basically, the main thing here is that, unlike with the Persona series, with your bonds, you don't really need to worry about what dialogue options you're choosing as you're hanging out with your bonds. Choosing the correct option will get you some extra magla, but it won't affect whether or not they actually rank up. So you don't have to worry about that like you do with the Persona series. One place where you do kind of want to pay attention to what dialogue options you're choosing is whenever you're doing an activity that has dialogue options that can result in you getting Royal Virtue stats. This is because you can get extra Royal Virtue stats for choosing the correct option. A good example of this is early on when you get the side quest that has you help out at the Hushed Honeybee Inn at night. When you do, you'll be given 3 dialogue options, and if you choose the second option, you'll be given plus 3 points in tolerance instead of just 2. So there are parts of the game where choosing the correct option can get you more Royal Virtue points. Now, hanging out with bonds and doing activities that get you Royal Virtue points will often take up time, and so just like in the Persona series, you're going to want to be doing whatever you can to maximize the amount of time you have, and one of the best ways to do this is to complete the story dungeons in as few runs as possible, ideally in one run. Now, doing this can be rough on the MP, especially early on, but luckily there are some things you can do to help with that. The first and quickest way is to find one of those crystals in a dungeon that will spawn enemies indefinitely. The enemies that spawn from these crystals are generally pretty weak and will die very quickly in action combat. So what you want to do is swap your main character to the mage archetype or an archetype from that same lineage, and then kill these enemies in action combat without destroying the actual crystal itself. What will happen is you'll be able to make use of the mage's passive ability that will restore 1 MP to all of your party members anytime that you kill an enemy in action combat or stun them in action combat. Doing it this way can take a while, but it is a very easy way to essentially get infinite MP anytime you can find one of these little crystals. Now, if the dungeon you're in doesn't have one of these little crystals, you have to figure out something else. What you can do is teleport back to the beginning of the dungeon where you see Moore's apparition. Don't actually leave the dungeon, just go back to the very beginning, and whenever you do that, it'll reset most of the enemies inside the dungeon, which will allow you to kill them again, and then you can find the ones that are easy to kill in action combat and get your MP back that way. Now, in addition to helping you get back your MP, both of these methods are also great ways to just grind for experience points, mag, money, and archetype ranks. And if you're gaining a bunch of levels from this, you're also going to be gaining a bunch of stat points. And one of the questions I've been asked the most is actually, how should I be allocating my stat points? And well, there's really no right or wrong way to do it, it just kind of depends on what you want to do. But there are a few things I can say that might help you make a decision one way or the other. The first is that the game does very much kind of push the main character into a sort of more magic and support role, especially for the early stages of the game. This is because you don't get a party member who can fulfill this role well until the later half of the game, and so early on, the main character is kind of the only one who does it. Add to that the Seeker line, which is kind of like the main character's default line, right? That actually gets a lot of really strong win magic later in the game, and so if you wanted to push your character in a more magic-oriented direction, you really can't go wrong with that. The other piece of information is that the main character's final archetype actually has really good magic and physical abilities, so even if you did decide to go physical instead, you won't be punished for it in the long run. And finally, just a couple more useful pieces of information. When you finally get access to the Gauntlet Runner, and then also get access to the pantry inside the Gauntlet Runner, you want to make sure that you are going back and checking that every single day, because you can get some free cooking ingredients, some of which can only be obtained from that pantry. The other thing is that if you're going to be doing any shopping, especially for expensive items, try to buy them on Idles Day. That's the last day of the week, and that's because all the shops usually have a pretty big discount on those days, so you can save some extra money that way. Oh, and actually there was one other thing that I wanted to mention, and that was with regards to 100%ing the game and getting the Platinum Trophy. In order to get the Platinum Trophy and 100% the game, you do need to play through the game 2 times. And this is because in order to get the Platinum Trophy, you do need to defeat the game's super boss, which can only be attempted on New Game Plus. But outside of that, everything else can be completed in one playthrough. Now, if you do want to do the super boss, there are a couple things to keep in mind. The first is that you cannot fight the super boss on the Storyteller difficulty. If you choose to do your New Game Plus run on Storyteller, you will not be able to fight the super boss, and therefore you won't be able to get the Platinum Trophy. The other thing is with regards to why you actually need to do 2 full playthroughs. You see, you can actually fight the super boss very early on in your New Game Plus run. However, whenever you do New Game Plus, your levels and your unlocked archetypes do not transfer over. This means that you need to re-level up your characters and re-unlock all of your archetypes before you can realistically attempt to do the game super boss. Don't worry though, you don't have to actually level up your archetypes again. Your archetype levels do transfer, you just need to unlock them again. And that'll do it for this super quick video going over some more tips and useful information about Metaphor ReFantazio. If you found this video helpful and informative, please be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you have any questions about this video, Metaphor, or any other game that I cover, feel free to hit me up over on Twitch at twitch.tv/RoslinGaming or my Discord server, both of which are linked in the video description below. Until next time, take care.